This video is intended to be my pre-fight breakdown and prediction ahead of, for my money, what is one of the most interesting fights this weekend. In the heavyweight division, Jarrell Miller, one of the big up-and-coming talents and one of the big up-and-coming personalities in the heavyweight division, against heavyweight stalwart of the division, Mariusz Wach. Now, we know Mariusz Wach, we know what he is at this level. He's been in with some of the very best fighters in the heavyweight division. Understand he's recently been sparring extensively with Anthony Joshua. He's been in the ring with Vladimir Klitschko. He's been in the ring with Alexander Povetkin. He's actually got wins and victories over Erkan Tepe, over Christian Hamer. In my recent series that I've been doing on the channel, listing the top 30 heavyweights in the planet, I've included Mariusz Wach towards the bottom half of the list. I think 21, 22 from memory was the sort of territory that I had him in. But potentially this represents the toughest test of Jarrell Miller's career. Certainly if not the toughest test, and maybe the second toughest test. I think Mariusz Wach is a better fighter than Fred Cassie. I think he's a lot bigger, a lot rangier than Fred Cassie. He's a lot more of the size that reflects the modern heavyweight division. I think he's a lot more tougher, a lot more durable and experienced and battle hardened than Jarrell Washington. I'd say he's a similar level and similar size to Jarrell Washington. I think Wach certainly has the experience, has the advantage in terms of experience, and has the advantage in terms of durability. Maybe Jarrell Washington, the more athletic of the two, the lighter on his feet, the more slick and skilled of the two, but they're thereabouts a similar level. So very interesting fight for me. I don't think it's a fight that Mariusz Wach is going to win. I don't know if he's got enough left in the tank at this stage of his career to get the victory against a guy like Jarrell Miller, but I think it could be a really useful learning fight for Jarrell Miller, and I think for us big baby fans out there, we've got an opportunity to learn something and you know, gauge where Jarrell Miller is actually at, dependent on how much trouble Mariusz Wach gives him. Stylistically, these are two very big guys. I understand Big Baby's likely to come in around the 280 pound mark. Mariusz Wach, a very big guy. I'm guessing 6'6", 6'7", that sort of territory, quite a heavily set guy. Wach is going to want to stand off and use his jab. His fundamentals are there. He likes to box from range. He's at his best when he's able to utilise his jab. You could even make a loose argument that he picked up one or two of the early rounds against Alexander Povetkin when he was able to keep Povetkin off him and use his jab. Big Baby is going to be the complete opposite, which is why this is an interesting clash stylistically. Big Baby is not going to want to stand outside the pocket and exchange jabs with Mariusz Wach. He's going to want to come in, he's going to want to bring the fight inside the pocket, he's going to want to push Mariusz Wach back, and he's going to go to work on the inside. He's going to want to put punches together in bunches with bad intentions. He's going to want to close down that gap, bank work to the body, throw a little uppercut on the inside. Yeah, that's the style. Outside, rangy fighter in Mariusz Wach. Inside, mauler type, relentless juggernaut type in the form of Jarrell Miller. Mariusz Wach, for me, one of the key reasons I'm with Jarrell Miller in this fight is because I just don't believe Mariusz Wach has the speed and the athleticism to keep a guy like Jarrell Miller off him. You know, Jarrell Washington couldn't keep Jarrell Miller off him for large enough portions of the fight, and Jarrell Miller's a younger, fresher, more athletic guy. Sorry, Jarrell Washington is a younger, fresher, more athletic guy with better footwork and faster feet than Mariusz Wach. So I just don't necessarily see Wach keeping Miller off him here. I think Wach may have success in the first round, maybe the second round or the third round, but I think after that period of the fight, his performances decline ever so slightly, and I think Jarrell Miller's shown a very good engine, and he's the young up-and-coming fighter with all the momentum. I think he'll be rallying, and he'll be you know, coming on strong as we get into the mid-rounds of the fight. So yeah, I could see maybe Wach having some success behind the jab in the early rounds, but I think it is only a matter of time, and probably a shorter amount of time, before Big Baby starts to walk him down, starts to position him against the ropes, and starts to unleash his offense. And I think when that happens, it's going to be really, really hard for Mariusz Wach to be competitive. You know, I'm not saying he gets blown out of there. He's an immensely tough guy, known as possibly having the best chin in world boxing. You know, we'll have to see how his punch resistance holds up in this fight. But I don't know if he's going to have the technique, and I don't know if he's going to have the inside game to even be competitive in rounds against a guy like Big Baby, bringing that kind of heat to the kitchen. So, you know, for me, this fight is Big Baby. The question for me really is how long does it last? You know, is Mariusz Wach going to be able to go 12? Big Baby's shown power, he's shown relentlessness, he's a very, very big guy. He makes himself very hard to fight by cutting down the range and imposing yourself. Will Big Baby stop Mariusz Wach? That is the key. You know, Wach's had success against similar, you know, fighters like Christian Hamer, fighters like Erkan Tepe. These aren't completely different types of fighters to a Big Baby Miller, but I just think Big Baby Miller is above both of those guys. He's bigger, he's more athletic, he's got a better engine, he creates even more educated pressure. You know, will he be able to stop Mariusz Wach? And I'm going to put it out there and say no. I'm going to say that Wach goes the distance in a fight that becomes increasingly one-sided in the second half. I'd be really impressed if he could make the statement. I know Povetkin stopped Wach, but Povetkin only stopped Wach, if I recall, because of a pretty gruesome cut that was sustained. I don't think Wach was ever in danger of getting iced. And, you know, the punches he took from Vladimir Klitschko, the punches he took from Alexander Povetkin, just tells me that this guy has a freak chin. Now, Big Baby maybe builds pressure in a different way to those guys. I'm not certain he's got the pure, unadulterated punch power of a Povetkin or a Klitschko. He's got power, but I'm not sure it's quite at that elite level. So, yeah, let's see. I would predict Wach comes out, wins the first round or two, Big Baby takes over. The second half of the fight is really, really one-sided. But I suspect, you know, Big Baby wins by a clear decision, maybe 9-3, something like that. Key questions going into the fight. If Mariusz Wach's punch resistance holds up, what will Big Baby's stamina look like in rounds 10, 11, 12? You know, we know, maybe it's only a 10-round fight actually, so in rounds 8, 9, 10. You know, I did read it may only be a 10-round fight, but, you know, Big Baby Miller, massive guy. He seems to be one of these natural big guys with a natural big engine, and it's just for me a question of how that engine looks going into the later rounds, because carrying that frame and fighting the kind of fight he fights with the kind of punches he throws is going to sap anyone's stamina. So let's see how that stamina holds up in the later rounds. If he if he shows that it's still there in the later rounds, and I think he really is a force to be reckoned with. You know, unfortunately, some of his more recent fights against Jarrell Washington and Fred Cassie, you know, have ended in stoppage, so we haven't necessarily get to see him in the championship rounds, if you like. Although, obviously, if this fight's over 10, not 12, we're unlikely to see that. Yeah, not going to see it on this occasion. But still, that's an interesting question. How he closes the range down against Mariusz Wach would be interesting. Does Mariusz Wach have the skill to keep him off for 2 or 3 rounds before succumbing? If Wach can keep him off for 2 or 3 rounds, that begs the question, you know, could a Wilder, you know, could a Fury jab him and keep him at range for the majority of the fight? You know, so these are very interesting questions for me. Miller is a real character, a real personality, working with Eddie Hearn now in Matchroom's inaugural show in the US, and for me, a real interesting test. I pick Miller to win. I pick Miller to win very clearly. The style he brings of grinding fighters down and bringing such pressure and such a sort of juggernaut approach could be the end of an older, aging Mariusz Wach. But I just think Mariusz Wach has freak durability And I expect that if you can take those punches from Povetkin, if you can take those punches from Klitschko, you can probably take them from Big Baby Miller. We'll wait to see. Fascinating to find out. Let me know your thoughts on this fight, guys. Anyone see an upset potential here? Does anyone think Miller can stop Mariusz Wach? How impressed would you be if he was able to do that? Let me know your thoughts. As always, please drop them in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, give us a follow on Twitter at Boxing Gossip. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before, or if you're new. I'll be covering this fight with a post-fight video afterwards, so please do check that out. And take the time to hit the thumbs up button to support this video and get this channel a little bit more visibility. Many thanks as always for tuning in. Appreciate you guys watching my stuff.